Huh. Feels good to sit down. That was a long walk and a lot of gates.
It does feel good to sit down. My back's killing me.
Yeah. Well, thanks for putting up with all my questions
That's
and
okay.
climbing around. Probably
My,
feels like
my,
you
my back's killing me. My arm or my legs are starting to feel like they're on fire, but that's okay. It's good for me.
you worked all day and didn't get anything done yet, except talking to me.
Oh, I got to feel the hay tedded.
Okay.
So I got something
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. So, is it your knees that hurt on your legs?
No, it's my calves. My calves are getting sore, and my left hip was really sore after yesterday.
Okay.
I don't really know why, but
A lot of standing.
I think it's just a standing. But like I said, 4-H fair is next week, and I usually go down there and and talk a lot. So I'm usually feeling it by about the second day of the fair. And I don't have to be there, but I just go
You
because I like to go.
like to be there.
I like to go and watch the kids.
Okay. Well, as we were walking around, I was just thinking about my observations of your major goals that you have in mind for your work. And I'd like to share my thoughts with you and just see what you're feeling about it. The first one is definitely working with your cattle. I can tell that's a soft spot in your heart that you really like doing that, and we talked earlier that that's a area you want to increase for your monetary gain for the farm.
That's the plan,
Yeah,
or my plan.
That'll be a use for your crops also. The other one that I was thinking about as a kind of a broad goal is your mobility and kind of the comments you're making even as we sit down here that your legs are on fire, but it's good for you. I suppose mobility in my mind would include, once you get to where you're going, standing there and working at the work that you're doing. And like if you could sit down or rest yourself when you got to some place, if you're going to be there for a little bit, that might be something to think about. Offload the weight from your back and your legs
For a few minutes.
When you get there and have some time to rest.
Kind of what happens when you get in a skid steer, but
So
skid steer time is kind of rest time. But
and you know what? You didn't get any skid steer time for all the walking around you did today.
Right.
All you got to do was climb in and out
Climb in, climb out, and.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I suppose we could just about put the skid steer into the mobility category then.
You could.
Really, you use it to get the cattle in the barn. You use it to open
I
and
use
close
it for just
gates
about. That's my part of. Yeah, that's my mobility aid, and the gator's my mobility aid.
Yeah.
Both of them help me get to where I gotta go.
So you've already accommodated yourself in some sense with that gator and how you use the skid steer. So but the skid steer is obviously also a serious role in taking care of your cattle.
Right.
So that might, I suppose, if we're prioritizing, maybe the skid steer operation floats to the top, since you use it for both taking care of the cattle and your mobility needs. It kind of becomes your most important tool on the farm for getting done what you need to get done.
I'd say it probably is for me.
It is.
It is, definitely. I mean, even when we were milking cows, and at that time we had 4 of them there before we got done, but
We had 4 of them for a while.
But we used them for everything. Scrape, fed. I had one guy yesterday say something about all the buckets we got, and it's like, well, they all had a purpose, and And we had buckets in the barnyard for the same thing. We had a rubber tire scraper down there and a feed bucket, a manure bucket, and a
We never
time
used a
bucket.
manure bucket for feed.
Right. Keep those separate.
Yep. We always kept them separate.
Other people,
Did you keep your skid steer separate? The one that you scraped with, you did not use for
Pretty
going in the
much.
feed bunk?
pretty much,
One,
until
yep,
until it was broke down.
yep, yep. The one skid steer always stayed out back in the one in the shed that we just got out always stayed out there, and that was the one that we used to fill the feed wagon. I used it to feed out there, so I was driving through the barnyards to feed them cattle.
But you didn't get it all. It didn't get all.
But I didn't, yeah. But I always loaded manure. When I loaded manure spreader, it was always loaded with the other skid steer from the barnyard.
Well, thankfully, your skid steer is pretty accessible. You did good climbing in and out of it.
I do okay.
I could tell that you did like that grab bar that was put on
Yeah.
for Ed, but I think it could be a little longer for you, and so you didn't have to reach as far, and then it just needs to stay up and go up easy.
It needs to move easy
That mechanism that it has now is just too loosey goosey and doesn't.
or tight.
Sometimes
It's one way or the other.
Yeah. So when it was tight, it was too tight, and now it's loose and it won't stay up. And so I think that's something that I can talk with. Let's see, who put that? David. Disability Work Tools put
Yep.
that on.
Yep,
So maybe he and I can work together and improve that design
a little bit.
and get that better. So we have the goal of the skid steer use, the goal of safe cattle handling, and just the goal of good mobility. So that seem
Stumps.
accurate to you?
Yep.
So if we could, before I take off, I'd like to maybe get some specific outcome measures to think about for those goals. So for safe operation of the skid steer loader, we're going to start with the grab bar,
Okay.
and we want a grab bar, and working with Debbie Hines to get it done in this fiscal year would need to be by the end of September, but you're using that all the time, so I think we want to get it done as soon as possible.
Whenever.
So let's say by September we can get that done, and we'll just pick a day in September. I'm gonna just call it a smooth hinge function
Okay.
and a secure lock in the up position, and lengthen it 4 inches. The other outcome measure for the skid steer loader, I think, is the backup camera or a rearview mirror. And we talked about doing a test trial, maybe trial your backup camera.
From the round baler.
Do you have a mount for your cell phone in your car or something? You got any kind of a magnetic cell
I-
phone mount?
She don't.
I don't, but Samantha.
Could your backup camera pair to your phone? Have you tried it?
It did to
Haven't.
mine when Dave came.
It did?
My phone, I think, is the same phone as his.
Okay.
But I told Samantha I'm not going to hold the phone with my hand.
No, I'm just thinking for a test, just to
Yeah,
trial
I
the
know.
backup camera on the skid steer and see if that's something that works.
See, I don't know whether she has a mount for her phone in her car. I don't know. Is that magnetic?
No. It kind of
Probably
clips
not.
like what Ned's got.
Oh,
Okay. So for the backup camera, you want to be able to see behind. Do you need to see behind on both sides, or is it mostly on the left? So if there's a
I
car
think it's
coming-
more on the left.
and it doesn't need to be removable. Once it's on there, it could stay.
If it depends.
Maybe, but if you go from one skid steer to the other,
I move from one to the
I
other.
think we should, whatever ends up working, we should get 2 of and put one on each skid steer.
Or at least I suppose if it's on one, at least okay, well, Jane, you should get in that skid steer if you're gonna go down the road, get in the one that's got it on.
For the safety sake of not running over somebody,
Yeah.
if you're getting it on one,
You could get it on the other.
I think because you've already said that when one's broke down, you rely on the other, right?
When one gets a flat tire, I get out of it and I bring it up here and park it for these two to change the tire. And I go walk out and get in the other one and hope that one doesn't have a flat tire too.
Okay.
It's when I have flat tires in both of them that's.
Then you start pulling a wheel off of one and put it on the other.
And for some reason, since we got rid of the cows, I don't know whether because everything's dry. It seems like I'm having a flat tire on a skid steer like every couple weeks. And I cannot figure out what the reason is or why it kind of goes in spurts, but
Okay. So we'll do a trial.
okay.
I suppose those magnetic mirrors are easy enough to use. I'll just order one and have it shipped here for you to try.
Okay.
And you can just stick it on
You
the
just
side.
stick it on the side of the arm.
Yeah, you stick it on
Right
the
back
arm,
by the
just outside the cab where you can kind of look past the corner of the cab and see back and see what you think of it.
he said if it doesn't work then he could just have it for a demonstration to use for other people.
We could get a proof
could
of
be a test.
concept anyway. Yeah,
I could be a test person.
yeah.
This other guy that we talked to, he can pick up a dime with his skid steer.
Yeah, that's what he said. Okay, so then if we move on to the next goal, I think the first one would be a way to get the animals into a squeeze chute so that you can give them shots if you need to, if there's a sick animal or something. But then maybe even before that, maybe at the same time. So if we think about a system with a crowding tub, swing gate, a couple of alley sections, and a squeeze chute at the end of it, get some dimensions for that, and then have Jared from MSU Extension come out and think with you, okay, where to put this in a central location for your cattle flow that all the groups can get to it, and whether it's in the freestall barn or sitting right where it's at or however it ends up being. If it's outdoors, I think having a canopy over it so that you have protection from the elements a little bit. But maybe we work on that in parallel. Have Jared come out and get
That I would like that.
start that process. And the other thing is, once you figure out with Jared the flow of the animals, some powered gates on the ones that you use most frequently. So if there's a couple of gates that you're going to go in and out every day.
Now, there again, with remotes, that would be a remote that would move from skid steer to skid steer?
Or
Right.
there's a company I just found out about
Or
this.
would it work on my phone or?
I'll send you some pictures of this, but it's a gate that you drive over and it's on a hinge. It just goes down flat and it comes back up.
I see those ranchers.
They come out of Manitoba, so
They put their front tire on it. It goes down. They drive over it. When they get over it, and then it goes back up again.
yeah. That might be even better than an electric one because then it's not going to break down or have wiring mess up.
How's it work when you go to walk through it as a person?
I don't know.
When you what?
If you have to walk through it.
If you want to walk through it instead of drive across it.
Well, you have to have another little gate there that you walk through.
Maybe, or it might go down easy enough. I'll ask that
I
question.
mean, or how do you get cattle? Say you want to make the cattle go through that gate for some
You
reason.
can't put it there. You can't put it where the cattle can't. It won't work.
I was thinking
I don't think.
probably where the north gate is.
Yeah.
I don't know that the center gate would be a good one for that
No, I
because
don't
that's
think
where
so.
cattle would need to go through. But the north gate would be fine. And just, it'll depend on how things work out with Jared a little bit. if you end up moving your system around, but at least the main gate that you go in and out of for doing chores. So you're going to have some gates that need to work for cattle and equipment.
Right.
Other gates that just need to work for equipment.
Right.
So I'm going to call it equipment gate opener, 16 feet, no exit from skid steer to enter and exit. You don't have to get out of the skid steer. And I'll just say some for equipment and some for livestock.
Okay.
And I'm not putting numbers of how many
Okay.
until we hear from Jared. Work with him. So then, the last one is the mobility. The skid steer addresses some of that. I was thinking about an idea of whether it's a cart that you push, like you've got the
The shopping cart.
shopping cart that works good in here because it's cement. In greenhouses or at greenhouse stores, they've got carts like that with big pneumatic wheels that people push around to buy plants and whatnot. They got 2 layers on them. You can carry stuff. It's almost like a walker for all terrain. You could lean on it, offload your back a little bit while you're pushing it. We could even modify the top deck of it down lower
To make
be
a
a
seat.
seat for part of it. But you'd be able to push that to wherever you're at, even if you get this working system set up. And you could push this to where that is and have your medicines
Have
on
everything
it,
on
and
that.
whatever, and push it out there, and then have a spot to sit down and rest if you need to.
Yeah, somebody
What do you
suggested.
think?
Somebody suggested something like that. That someone that I talked to that's an occupational therapist, and she suggested it, and she said you could go out like in the garden or whatever with it, and be able to sit down.
And then sit down.
Yep.
I think she was talking about a rollator walker with big wheels, and that could work too. How about if I send you some pictures of each
Why don't you do that?
to think about? But what it needs to do is give you something to lean on. Lean on cart,
Because I like to lean.
sit at destination. And it needs to roll across rough terrain.
Roll across rough terrain, not just work on cement.
And for that, you can't have less than 8-inch wheels. 10s are even better, but 8s will work. So we'll say a minimum of 8-inch wheels. Pneumatic.
Okay.
Or no flat. Maybe you want the no flat ones so you don't have to worry about
I
them.
was gonna say, I was just wondering about that. What's the difference in how they push?
If they're no flat wheels, I think they'll be just as good. Like a no flat, you can get no flat wheelbarrow wheels now, and I'm sure you can get
You know, whether that's
no flat wheels on a cart. So, well, I think that we've got a plan to start moving towards. I will talk with the AT suppliers. I'll talk with the lay down gate people and see if you can walk
Just
through
see
them.
what-
I'll get a hold of David Reed, and he and I can get together and look at your skid steer grab bar. I'll get you a trial of skid steer mirror.
Mirrors.
And if you want to figure out a mounting system for a phone and play with his
camera, backup camera.
all right, that sounds good.
When he's not baling hay.
Yeah, I think that's a.
Sounds like
And
a
then
plan.
once we try these things, I'll get back in touch with you and Debbie, give you what I think is the best option,
Okay.
make sure we're all on the same page, and then you and Debbie can get together again. She'll have a plan for you to sign, something to, like an agreement that they're going to purchase these items for you, and then you can
You go from there.
agree to use it
Yep.
and keep farming with it.
Yep.
So, sound good?
Sounds good.
We got something to work on.
We do. A lot to work on.
Thanks for spending time with me. I'll let you get back to your hay fields and baling hay today. It's a nice day. Sorry to take up so much of your time, but
It's okay.
I think we're making progress.
We liked visiting with you.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, take care, and
Okay.
I'll be in touch within the week. I'll
Okay.
get back with you. So,
Okay.
all right.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yep.
Take care, Ed. Good to see you again.
Yep.